Hey, this is Gravel. Don't tune us out. We got a full episode this week of high school riding. New bikes coming out. The Hondo from last week down in Augusta. We're talking Bleeding Kansas and social media. Is that about it? Right?
Sounds good.
All right. See ya. Hey, welcome to This is Gravel. I am Bobby Thompson, and with me, as always, is
Neil Taylor.
Neil Taylor. How you doing, Neil? What's been going on?
Oh, well, I've been busy with a lot of the high school cycling still. Talked a little bit about that last week. But we have weekly meetings, and then we've been getting out for some rides. And so this past Saturday and Sunday, got out for two separate rides because some kids can make Saturdays, some can make Sundays. And we had 10 kids total between the 2 days.
Yeah.
But 9 of them it was 9 different kids.
Which is double the last week, so you're picking it up?
Yeah, so cool. a lot of kids coming out riding bikes. We got some of them to their furthest distance so far, 10 miles out there on gravel. Yeah. Which for some of us, 10 miles. But you think about kids that have been out maybe for their first time or second time on gravel, and they're getting out there and doing 10 miles. It's awesome. Yeah. And it shows me that this is something that isn't just attainable for them, but it's attainable for any of us. Right. To be able to get out there. What I love the most about it, though, I'll be honest with you, is the smiles, man. We get out there and ride, and you just kind of look over your shoulder at them, and there's just a grin from ear to ear as they're rolling down the gravel roads. It's been awesome.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah. So what have you been up to, Bobby?
It's event season again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I went. So we had this weekend was the Grassland grind up in Council Grove. And I know we had lots of locals and lots of area people go to that. I heard that it was a great race. I went down to the Hondo, which I've been trying to get to for a couple years now. I wanted to get down there. I attempted the 77 intermediate route. I ended up with the 90-mile casual intermediate route by going off course, by doing what I tell everybody not to do. Do not watch the person in front of you. And when you're feeling good and you're riding well and you're keeping up and working with someone, it's hard to follow the Garmin that says turn right when they go straight. And I went straight for 6.5 miles before I figured it out. So,
and if I'm not mistaken, weren't those 6.5 miles downhill that you went?
Those of you who have been to like Wabunsee County, Maisie's, where you got the big old rocks and you got the washout ruts with the drop-offs. Yeah, 3 miles of that was straight downhill, and so I got to climb back up out of that, which erased the smile for a few hours. But eventually, with the coaxing of friend Jason Eberts and Bob Cummings and Jeff Young, the smile eventually came back. So until the very end, it was fun. The very end came down to a sprint. The finish line was excited because they heard that the winners were coming in of the 120-mile route. So they saw the three of us, me, Jeff, and another guy we rode in with, coming around the corner getting ready for a sprint. So the finish line was all super excited. Until they saw Jeff's orange Gorilla Monsoon break out to the left and sweep in for the win. And me standing on my bike with 2 full leg cramps because I couldn't even pedal my bike anymore. I coast through the finish line. But it was fun. It was a good race. Great event. I'll tell you this. Bob's been telling me for 2 years, you got to get out there and try the gravel. It's east of Wichita pretty much. And I tell you, it was a hard day. It was a hard, rough gravel that made it hard to keep a consistent cadence. So it's a good ride. You should look into it next year.
The first year they had that back in 2015, I went out there and gave it a go, and it was a miserable day. It was similar probably to this last Saturday. It got up about 98 degrees 90s, that day. And I had to stop in a guy's front yard just sick, just losing my goose and other things that I had in me at that point. And but man, you talk about the roads; they're awesome.
Yeah,
it is some nice
it really
roads out there. I heard even the 119-mile one came down to a sprint right at the
It did,
end.
actually. We were there. I got to see the sprint for that. No, it was a lot of fun to watch that too. So,
sweet.
It is beautiful. It's different. Every race has different views, and it's worth the drive down to.
Awesome.
So, exciting week.
Yes,
we have another race coming up this weekend up in Manhattan. But before that, we had the drop from Salsa this week, which we love.
Yes.
Admittedly, we really love Salsa bikes. And they dropped their new Cutthroat lineup and the new Warbird lineup this week. So Matt had a chance earlier in the year actually to sit down and talk with Salsa about the version 4 Warbird, and we're gonna play that for you.
You guys have a prototype here. Well, what's it like to debut a brand new prototype at Dirty Kanza?
You don't make new bike platforms that often. Like, it's kind of a special thing. I think I actually mentioned that to you with Journeyman at Land Run. And so what we decided was, in DK, it is the premier gravel event in this country, folks. It's an awesome event put on by awesome people in an awesome part of the country. This is the big deal, folks. And so we said, you know what we're going to do is we're going to not launch a bike, but we're going to show them the prototypes of the next Warbird, what we call a Warbird V4. Our fourth version of the Warbird. I mean, we've been at this a while. There's a lot of changes to this thing. Some of them are easy to see, and then there's others that actually, they're just small, subtle things, but when I tell you what they are, they'll all add up and make sense to you. So the most noticeable thing, the easy thing for everybody to see, is that the next Warbird, which will become available in fall 2018, you can go 700C by 45 mil tires, or as you can see on that other bike over there, you can go 650B by 2.1. Either wheel size will work, right? There's a lot of wheel size choices in the marketplace for people right now, and we wanted Warbird to be able to play with any of their choices. We get to some of the subtleties. It's all new geometry. So we've been doing gravel bikes for a long time. This is the fourth version of Warbird. Essentially what we've done is gone to even longer front centers on this bike with short stems. This is a very small bike here, a 49, but the stem isn't any different on a 61. Short stems, long front centers, short rear ends, increased stability on descents, especially when you're going fast on rough descents, but stability the increase. Some people said, what's wrong with the Warbird we got now? Nothing's wrong with that bike, but you're constantly looking to make improvements. A bunch of engineers in this tent, two of them are about to leave on the DKXL. These guys have ridden a lot of gravel. When they think they can make something a little better, it's best to listen to them. They find subtleties. The rear end of Warbird has used Class 5 VRS from the last incarnation and now this one. It's the same VRS, it's the same amount of comfort, but it's been totally redone. The seat stays are shorter than on the previous version, and the reason we did that was so we could lower top tube. We needed to get the top tube to go down, and to do that we needed to be able to have Class 5 VRS with shorter seat stays. Why did we want the top tube to move down? Because we wanted to give you more clearance, better standover clearance. That also let us make the bike more comfortable. Same comfort coming from here, but now you're going to expose more seat posts. And seat posts provide a lot of comfort when you're riding a bike, especially if you choose the right seat post. Other changes. Shaping of the down tube and the bottom bracket area to not take away from the comfort, but provide better propulsion. You have more efficient drivetrain. It's stiffer propulsion. A whole new forks created for this bike. We will sell it aftermarket as well. We're calling it the Wax Wing. And basically what we did with the Wax Wing was you've got all the options. You've got 3-pack mounts, so you can run anything cages, you could run water bottles, you can run lowrider panniers on this, you can run a rear rack if you like. It's got internal dynamo routing, It's got a light mount. It's got everything you need. I mentioned cable routing on the fork, cable routing for the frame, all internal, and all of it what we call sleeved or tubed internal. So there's not poke and pray, as we say, where you're poking around and hoping to try to grab it out the other end. You put the cable in and it comes out the hole on the other side. All the mechanics and home mechanics will appreciate that. That's some of what we got going on. There'll be 7 sizes of this bike. There'll be 5 model levels when we come to market. They'll all be carbon, the same frame and same fork, but different build specs and some different wheel sizes. Yeah, that's what I got to say about the Warbird V4.
All right, sweet. I've been on the Warbird since the carbon model was released. I mean, like the day after it was released, I got my carbon model from District Bikes down in Stillwater, and been riding it ever since. And I have beat the living tar out of that bike, and it's still rolling well. So I'm excited to see the new changes, get on the new bike. It's a little bit different geometry, slightly different geometry. I can't wait to try it. Everyone who's ridden it so far has done nothing but rave about it. So
well, and one thing I love about it, because as we've talked about with some of my past races, gears would be nice at some point in the future again. One of the things that I don't want to give up is the fork mounts that I've had for my water bottles here using the Niner, and I love the fact that they put those mounts on there that you could put cages up on the fork, because that's just become something I use. Even if I go out for a ride where I'm taking one bottle with me, it's going on the fork now as opposed to in the triangle. And so I love that Salsa's put that on there.
I love that the wheels are interchangeable between 650B and 700C, because I am lucky enough I have a set of both, and it is fun. They're totally different ride experiences, and it'll be fun to be able to swap those in and out here and there. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I briefly mentioned we have the Bleeding Kansas coming up this weekend, which is a little bit different for us here in the Midwest. I know that there are these going on in other areas, but it's more of a Gravelduro, where I think there's, for the 100-mile version, there's 7 timed segments, and for the 50-mile version, I believe that there's 5 timed segments, if I remember correctly. So time trial, KOM climb, and a lot of descents. I'm curious about the descents, because let's face it, the only way you're going to win a descent is if you ride the descent a little reckless and a little fast, which has the potential for some ouches to be created.
Especially depending on how the descents are. I mean, you talk about Wauponsee County gravel up by Eskridge area and Alma, and you're not going to be too far from that up by Manhattan, so you could get some really sketchy descents.
So it'll be interesting. I mean, we hope that everyone's safe, but I understand the need to push it a little bit. So we'll see if my 3.5-year-old Salsa frame holds up well to what I'm going to do this weekend on the descent. So it'll be exciting. We were able to, Matt talked with Aaron this week of the Bleeding Kansas, and can't wait to hear about it.
Hey, Gravel Guru fans, we're joined today by Aaron from the Bleeding Kansas Gravelduro. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great down here in Emporia. Worth mentioning, you're about an hour northwest of here, but you guys have a big event coming up this weekend. Give us a little bit of an overview.
Yeah, so September 22nd, 8 a.m., Manhattan, Kansas, Bleeding Kansas Gravel. It's a little bit of a different concept. A gravel, or the way that we're envisioning this event, is instead of being timed on a continuous loop, we still have the continuous loop part, but we're only going to time certain segments of the course. So example would be a 100-mile course. You might expect somebody to finish that in between 6, 7, 8 hours, somewhere around there. We have a 100-mile course, but we are imagining the finishing people to be closer to like an hour or an hour and a half, because we're only going to take 8 segments and we're going to add those together, and that's going to be your finishing race time. If you are curious about what your overall time is going to be for the complete loop, we should still have that available, but it doesn't necessarily count towards the podium, if you will.
Very cool. So kind of a new take on some of the gravel cycling that we really haven't seen a lot of, the Duro style racing here before.
Yeah, there is an event out in California that started up a couple of years ago, and I think that there's been an iteration maybe over in Scotland called a Gravelduro. We don't have the terrain quite like California and Scotland, so it is a little bit of a different take. The descents aren't these multi-thousand-foot long descents. There's actually a couple little blippy hills inside of some of them. We're expected to pedal through some of these descents to really get faster times. So it is a gravel race, but like you said, it's just a little bit different way of getting people out there, enjoying the space that we have at our disposal.
But speaking of the space out there in the terrain, you talk about kind of having to pedal some of these descents. One thing I've learned in the Flint Hills is if we descend, we've got to climb at some point. So what is this course out there like during the day on Saturday?
Most people are going to be familiar with the Flint Hills that is in and around the Emporia area. That's obviously, because the DK has exposed so many people to the terrain down there. An hour north of Emporia, the hills are surprisingly, so you're still, anytime you descend, there's something on the backside or on the front side. What the race is to not necessarily quote unquote penalize you for the having to go up the other side. We want you to just really enjoy the descents and then give you the opportunity to get your head up and look around a little bit more than you might in a normal race scenario.
Yeah, when you're out there on this course, kind of what's the makeup? Are you kind of in wide open exposed prairie up in this part of the state? Are you down in the trees, kind of like I know like when you get down in the Pillsbury Crossing area of Manhattan?
Right.
There's a lot of trees, wooded area, but you get on the Kanza Prairie and it's wide open spaces. What is kind of that mixture like during the day?
I would say that the early part of the race is going to be maybe some of that lower lying treed-in area, but Manhattan kind of sits in a river valley, and then you have to climb up into the Flint Hills, and most of the course keeps you in of the hills, but you do descend into some of those treed sections. It's hard because over the course of the Flint Hills, as I'm sure you know, as I'm sure many people who have ridden in the flow, it continuously changes. We have wide land, but then we also have sections where kind of like a skyline drive near you're kind of just floating on top of the hills and everything looks kind of flat, but then you descend into areas and it really shows you the diversity in the terrain. So
very cool. I see you have a big name Red Bull cyclist showing up this year and quite a women's class coming to race. What is that like for you guys on your first year of an event?
Well, I mean, the only reason of that opportunity is because we have been afforded the opportunity to see the women's camp coming up here on Saturday. As part of the camp, they're actually going to race in the Bleeding event. So we feel very fortunate that they're willing to come up here and up here. Rebecca is the aforementioned Red Bull athlete that you mentioned. She's going to be one of the instructors, the people that's going to be helping the DK folks out with their women's camp. But as Christy Moan pointed out to me about 24 hours ago, it's not just Rebecca Rush that's coming up here. It's a lot of really amazing women who are really pushing the endurance cycling world. We want to be a part of that movement. And we're really, really proud that we're going to have a really strong women's field. Part of that is we've decided not just to, the open categories, but we are doing some age category awards as well. Outs and the trophies and all that stuff, it's equal between men and women in our event because we want to continue to see that side of the sport grow.
Very cool. It sounds like a great event coming up this weekend, September 22nd in Manhattan, Kansas. If you haven't registered, you're seeing this here on the show a couple days before the race this weekend. Can people still register, and what do they need to do to get that and find out more information on the event?
Yes, registration is still open. That would be mhkgravelduro.com. There is a register button in the top right corner on the website that will lead you to our registration. We do have day of registration as well. Price will bump just a little bit with day of registration. But right now, for a first year event, I feel pretty confident in the turnout that we've got. We've got over 100 racers currently registered. My hope is that we're kind of sitting in that range by the time that we got on Saturday morning. But yeah, we'd love to have you here. The weather forecast is looking pretty stellar, so it should be a fun day.
Yeah, it should be a great day in Manhattan, Kansas. Hey, thanks for joining us this week, Aaron.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for everything you guys do.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Aaron. Aaron, I'll see you this weekend. It'll be awesome. It may be painful. We'll find out. What are you going to do this weekend?
Ride bikes with high school kids again. I'm telling you, I'm loving it. I've thought a lot about kind of what I want to do. I know I'm not a racer so much. I can get out there, I can complete the centuries, I can complete the 200s. I'm not ever racing for a podium, and so I'm enjoying the ability to get out there and get these kids out on bikes. And the reality is, man, I'll tell you, there's some potential in the youth of our community. You have to realize that these kids are out there on 20-year-old steel frames. Yeah. Some of them because they are hand-me-down bikes. Some of them are out there riding on some old mountain bikes with some just wore-out tires. They need some new tires on there. But when we finished off our ride this past Sunday, the kids wanted to do a sprint for about the last mile and a half. And I was just like, I'm going to let them sprint. I'm going to sit at the back with those that don't want to sprint and watch them go. And, some of them were riding about 18 miles an hour into Soden's Grove at the end there. And so, this is at the end of a 10-mile ride, which, again, for them was the longest ride that any of them to this point really had done. And they were still being able to sprint and put out that kind of effort. And so, I'm excited to see kind of what these kids are going to do. And I'm loving being a part of it.
No, I love it. And I know that we've had some community writers pitch in some old articles and stuff for them to use. And so I think it's great. So definitely great. We will be looking forward to seeing where you're going to ride this weekend, what you're going to be doing this weekend. We saw what you did last weekend, and now you get to see it.
Hey, thanks, Bobby and Neil. We've had a ton of social media come in this week on our Facebook and Instagram pages. First up, Mario sent in this photo out riding in Portugal. Jason Young sent in this photo, said he had a blast doing the 50K ride on the Hastings Heritage Trail in Ontario, Canada. The temps were hot, the gravel was challenging, but he said he wouldn't change a thing. Greg Gleason was out checking out some new local single track. Randy was out exploring some mid-Missouri back roads. David Jones was over at the Hondo in Augusta, Kansas. Steve Fuller was out riding Bangor Island Creve Coeur Park and a new mini pump track out there. Looks like a lot of fun, Steve. Andrew Smith went out for a ride in Bridgeville, Nova Scotia, Canada with his wife. What a nice evening, and sure it does look like a great time out there, Andrew. Jason Shearer sent in the photo from the Delta Backroad, says the Delta Epic is this weekend. Matt Haney got this awesome sunset photo out in western Oklahoma. Gordon McCauley sent in this photo from Albert, New Zealand. Awesome riding out there, I bet. And finally, John sent in this photo riding the Keystone Gravel in Pennsylvania. Thank you to everybody that submitted photos using the hashtag #ThisIsGravel.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for those pictures again. As we mentioned, we love seeing what you guys are doing. I know there's a lot of events coming up this weekend, too. Like you said, we're back in race season. Not that it really ever dies in gravel.
Event season.
Yes, but a lot of events this fall, so we'll love seeing what you guys are doing even up through the coming weeks as well. But thank you guys for those pictures.
Sweet. See y'all next week.